So for 5, 6, okay, that first row, you're simplifying the expression. Those were all really nice because you had perfect cubes, perfect fourth roots. Okay, so number 1, you should have 5x cubed. Cube root of 125 is 5. 3 goes into 9 3 times. For 1 like number 2, remember you can do the fourth root of the numerator over the fourth root of the denominator. And then for number 3, you can do the same thing where you're doing the cube root of the top over the cube root of the bottom. Or if you wanted, what's 64 divided by 8? Well, it's just 8, right? So this is the cube root of 8x cubed. Cube root of 8 is 2, and then 3 goes into 3 1 time, so that comes out. All right, and then for the second row, it says write each expression in radical form and simplify. So remember, the root is always on the bottom. Okay, so the 6th root of 64 is 2. 2 to the 5th is 32. Cube root of 27 is 3. 3 squared is 9. Cube root of negative 8 is negative 2. Negative 2 to the 4th is 16. Okay, questions on just the 1 through 6? Okay. All right, and then the next row says to write each expression by using the rational exponents. So when it says that, you want to keep your exponent as a fraction, which the first two probably went very well. So you have the power over the root. Okay, remember that index number, that's what goes on the bottom. So the 5th root means 5 goes on the bottom. The power of 4 is going to go on the top. If you don't see an index number, what is it? 2. Now this one, some of you may have simplified. That's okay. Like if 36 squared, if you simplified that. The one that you'll have on your quiz, I won't have it be simplifiable because I think that's a little confusing. So for these, the reason why I wrote it like this is so my fraction was my exponent. So if you simplified for that one, don't worry about it. Now for the next set, it does say to simplify each one. So when you are multiplying with the same base, what do you do to the exponents? You add them together, okay? So you should have 4 to the power of what? 4 to the 4th, and that's how you're going to get the 256. Okay, here you subtract. Okay, so you have 27 to the 2/3. So 27 to the 2/3 is the same thing as taking the cube root of 27 and then squaring it. Okay, so then you have 3 squared, and that's going to simplify to 9. Okay, for this one, when you multiply, you get 125 to the 2/6, which is the 1/3 power. Anything to the 1/3 power is the same thing as the cube root. And we know the cube root of 125 is 5. Okay? All right, for ones like 13, don't multiply those. You need to distribute the 2/3 to each of them. But remember, 2/3 is the same thing as the cube root squared. So it's the cube root squared. So the cube root of 27 is 3. So you have 3 squared, which is 9. The cube root of 64 is 4. 4 squared is 16. 9 times 16 is going to be 144. And you can always write that out, right? 54, carry the 5. There you go. Okay, this is 1/5. You can think of it as the 5th root of the top over the 5th root of the bottom. And the 5th root of 1 is going to be what? 1. Okay, now, if you're not sure what the 5th root of 243 is, what type of strategies could you use to find this? What I would think of is, I know 2 to the 5th is 32, so it can't be 2, right? So then maybe I'd try 3. We know that 3 to the 4th power is what? No. 3 to the 4th is 81. So to find 3 to the 5th, I just have to multiply this by 3, and I get 243. So then the 5th root is going to be 3, so you have 1/3. what happens when you have a negative exponent?
Over 1.
Over 1. So it's 1 over 64 to the 1/3, which is the cube root. The cube root of 64 is what?
1.
So then you have 1 over 4.
And it's a positive 1 over 4.
Yes. Yep, it is positive. So the negative exponent only puts it over 1.
Yeah.
Okay, but for one like this, you have the cube root, and there's a negative inside, that's fine. The cube root of a negative is going to be a negative. So it's negative 3, and then 3 goes into 6 twice. You have negative 3x squared. Okay, now 17 can be a little tricky because see how you have parentheses on the top but not on the bottom? This means the 3 over 2 has to get applied to the 25 and the x. But on the bottom, it's just 5 times x to the 1/2. I like to simplify the numbers and the variables separately. So this is the square root of 25 raised to the 3rd power. So the square root of 25 to the 3rd power would be 5 cubed, which is what? Yep. So I have 125 over 5 times x to the 3 over 2 minus x to the 1/2. This would be x to what power? The first, because it would be 2 over 2, which is 1. 125 divided by 5 is 25. That's how you get your 25x. Okay? So you're not applying the 1/2 to the square root. Okay? All right, now this one's applied to a negative exponent. This one is applied to a positive exponent. So the 9x to the 1/2 would go on top of the fraction, while the 4x to the 1/2 would go in the denominator. Remember, 1/2 is the same thing as the square root. So if you're applying this to both of them, 9 to the 1/2 is 3. X to the 1/2, I have to keep that. 4 to the 1/2 is 2 because it's a square root, and then you have x to the 1/2. Now x to the 1/2 divided by itself is just what? 1. So those cancel. So you have 3 over 2. All right, and then the last one, okay, this is one where you can use your calculator. So they give you this equation, okay, and you have to find when z is 92. So you're going to plug in 92 for z, and then you can use your calculator for this. So you can either do the cube root of 92, or you can just do 92 to the 2/3 power. Let's do that. Okay, and then just divide by 137, and then I round it to the nearest hundredth. Okay, and then the c is part of your expression. Okay, so that's why I have that in there. Okay, so the velocity would be 0.15 times c. All right, so that is the last page of your review packet.